Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the KLM listeners and our friends from Yiboneh. We're going to kick off in a minute with the third and final shir in our Elul series entitled The Jewel of Yiras Hashem and Rosh Hashanah, which is fast approaching. And next week, Bezrat Hashem, we'll have another shir. So it's going to be the fast of Tzom Gedalia, but the KLM series will continue, so it'll be the evening of the fast, and the recording will go out as usual. We'll also be sending out, well, I was going to say, we have a PDF pack of fantastic tools for Kavanas for Rosh Hashanah, and if anybody's interested in that, please message myself or Rabbi Wegbreit, and we'll get that sent to you. Either do it on the off the WhatsApp group or rabbiwegbreit@gmail.com. So yeah, I think let's make a start, Rabbi. If you want to turn on your camera, you can get going. Okay.
Okay. Hi, parrots and everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the listeners in Yiboneh and the other people who are joining on recording. Yiras Hashem. Imagine the following. Imagine you see online a course, and the course is considered very, I don't know, what's the word, hot, viral. It's a fantastic course. It's by a published Ivy League psychologist. And what is it about? The name of the course is Cultivating a Longevity Mindset. I made that up. Actually, I'm thinking maybe I should do something with that. No, ready? So the course is called Cultivating a Longevity Mindset. And what that means is that really, if you adopt this mindset, you will extend your life. Okay. Now that's obviously popular amongst all human beings for the most part. Okay. So ready? Let's say you sign up for the course, and this is what I'm about to tell you is the essence of the course of how to cultivate a longevity mindset. It says like this. First of all, you need to worry. You need to worry about the future, also worry about the past. You need to feel fear, okay? You have to be afraid and anxious about the past and about the future. So how much of how many attendees will show up for such a course? You hear it sounds ridiculous. It's laughable, except for the fact that that's divine truth. It says in Mishlei, this is such an important hakdama to the involvement in Yiras Hashem. We must internalize this. It says in Mishlei, Perek Yud, Pasuk Chaf Zayin, 10:27. It says, Yiras Hashem Tosif Yamim. Yiras Hashem extends your life. Now, we don't mean like, see, we use the word Yiras Hashem, oh, he has Yiras Hashem. It's like a nice description of he really cares about his, Torah and his relationship. It's not, we're talking about fear. We're talking about the emotion of fear. And that's why the Vilna Gaon finds this very difficult to understand. How could Shlomo Melech claim that fear of Hashem will extend your life? Says the Gra, and this is quite remarkable because the Gra, I recall, was in the late 1700s, right? And the Vilna Gaon had not studied neuroscience and the new science of psychoneuropharmacology. He didn't study that either. I don't think he was studying about the relationship between mind and body on health. None of those things. But you know what the Gra says? The Gra says, he says like this: pachad, fear, terror, worry, da'aga. He says it shortens your life. And the life that you have will be miserable. He says, Hayim Shalo Eino Hayim. So the Vilna Gaon says, what is Shlomo Melech talking about? So, by the way, our tendency to avoid fear is a healthy one, and worry and anxiety. And you hear all the people, all the positive psychology people, banish worry, banish anxiety, banish, etc. Okay? So yes, that kind you should banish, but don't make a mistake. Shlomo Melech says, the Gra is saying, Yiras Hashem Eino Kain. It's not like this. It works on a different plane. When you fear Hashem as a mitzvah, it extends your life. It's a longevity plan and a longevity mindset. And think about this. Why would Hashem, one of the sheish mitzvahs to medios, one of the 6 constant 24/7, Hashem wants you to be fearing 24/7. It's one of those constant mitzvahs to fear Hashem. Okay, and I know we'll talk about Romamus, etc., but it also means Yiras Onish, fear of punishment, of retribution. You hear this? Why would Hashem command it if it's going to just be okay? And we're hearing from Shlomo Melech, it's a life extender, a quality of life enhancer. We must, because here's the thing, but the Yetzer Hara is so smart, right? He causes you to misapply the concept, fear, anxiety, it's unhealthy, I stay away from it, period. Don't listen to that, okay? Regarding this, lately I realized, what I think we're suffering from? I think many of us have an identity crisis. We identify with the inner talk of the Yetzer Hara and think that's us. That's an identity crisis. So don't fall prey here, okay? This will be the theme of this year. Don't be afraid to be afraid of Shem, okay? That's the introduction. Now, the timing of this, we did 3 shirim on Ahavas Hashem, and now we're going Yiras Hashem. So first of all, before I discuss the timing, the Zohar says something that's, I hope, going to get you to make a strong commitment to review these classes and integrate them. You know what the Zohar says? The Zohar says that the mitzvah, when you have Yiras Hashem and Ahavas Hashem, when you study Torah, do mitzvahs, it serves like wings that carry the mitzvahs to the highest part of the heavens, okay? You hear this? They are the launching pad. Ava and Yira, it's making it very clear, every mitzvah should have Ava and Yira, every one of them, okay? So you hear this? They're like wings that carry your Torah and your mitzvahs to the Shemayim, okay? With that in mind, again, but based on the principle of mitzvah, goreres mitzvah, let's have in mind the mitzvah right now. We're learning, okay, learning Torah, the Ava, to give you nachas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and B'yira, meaning to say that we know Hashem is present, watching and evaluating how much we are focused on this year. Okay, now the timing of shir number 4 being right before Rosh Hashanah could not be better, according to the Paleo-8s. The Paleo-8 says something, there's so many things at stake on Rosh Hashanah, right? Livelihood, health, wealth, family, friends, community, world, lots going on. It's a Rosh Hashanah, right, for judging mankind. Now, guess what says the Paleo-8s? It's also, ready for this? It's a Rosh Hashanah for Yiras Shamayim. Here, let's go to what he says about Sukkot first. This is his principle. The Paleo-8 says that, for example, on Sukkot, we all know the mitzvah is Simcha. So he says that Sukkot is a Rosh Hashanah of Simcha, meaning if you conduct yourself properly, meaning you work on attaining Simcha on Sukkot, you'll be able to elicit and experience Simcha during the year. Same thing with Rosh Hashanah regarding Yiras Hashem. To the degree that we cultivate and experience Yiras Hashem, Yira on Rosh Hashanah, we are basically determining how much Yiras Hashem will have a predisposition towards during the year. Sound fantastic, right? Let's work on it, okay? So tonight I'm going to give you, relatively speaking, a lot of information about Yiras Hashem. And then I'm going to give us a little tour through Rosh Hashanah, like an overview. And like Parrot said, we're preparing a toolkit, a collection of PDFs that can really cover all the bases on Rosh Hashanah. If you're interested, let us know. Okay, so let's get started with what we'll call the path to Yiras Hashem. And we're going to see that the path to Yiras Hashem is very similar to the path to Ahavas Hashem. And let's just take a look again at Ahavas Hashem, get a quick review of that, and we'll see how similar it is, and I'll explain why it's similar. Okay. Okay, this is not what I want yet. Help me, Hashem. Oh yeah, this is what I want. Okay, we see the screen well?
Yeah, great.
Okay, great. You know, I used to think I'm a very bad singer, and could be it's still true, but you know, I was listening to a recording. I tried to review them to improve, and also my wife, of course, going to tell me I can sing, but yeah, it's not as bad as I thought. Okay, so ready? This is the process we said for Ahavas Hashem. To know Hashem is to love Hashem very much, and then serve Hashem from love. Okay, that's the process according to the Rambam in the Mishnah Torah. Okay, and we said that this is just chock full of mitzvahs, but we've organized them. So the first thing the process, I think, flows nicely. Thoughts, feelings, action, right? So first you have to reflect on Kadosh Baruch Hu, and says the Rambam, to the degree you reflect, to that degree you will feel love. It's a mamish, direct causal relationship. Okay, so I mentioned the three constant mitzvahs here, and the suggestion I made to you is to take any verse in Pesukei de Zimra and just think about it a little bit. Let something speak to you, and remember, I'm knowing Hashem to end up loving Hashem, because in Kriya Shema, that's when you're supposed to enter Ava into your heart. Okay, so we said when you cultivate the knowledge, you end up feeling love, and the love can go to such a degree, especially when you know how much you can trust Hashem, and you're in His hands, and He's on your side, etc., etc. Then you can even, look below, you can even love Hashem when He measures out difficulties. You can even love Hashem and have a trusting, non-critical view of the treatment you're receiving. That's how far it can go. Okay. Next, we say, so now you thought, you feel, now you want to do. You want to please the one you love, right? So we said the first thing is the motivation of all your mitzvahs, as now, should be, Hashem, I'm learning Torah right now. I'm preparing for Rosh Hashanah because I love you. I love it. That's my agenda here. That's my only agenda. That's one. And then we have other things. We have going out, pushing yourself financially, pushing yourself physically, using your Yetzer Hara, all your physicality, you're channeling it to Hashem out of love. And we said Kiruv, all these things are actions of love, okay? So that Rambam in the Mishnah Torah doesn't just say, he says, Ketzad Ava v'Yira. In other words, how do you cultivate love and fear? Okay, Yira. Now he's pretty much focused on Yiras Haromamus, which will be part of this year. But now let's see how it's the same system, but we're going to have to do some different work to achieve the goals. Here we go. There it is. To know Hashem is to fear Hashem, and then serve Hashem with fear. Okay, that's the model. Simple. Okay, and this collapses eight Torah commandments actually. All right. So first of all, what you need to know about Hashem is a bit different than what we focused on in terms of cultivating Ahava. Okay. So I hit two key points because, as most people know, there are there's really three, but I'm going to say there's two primary expressions of fear. Number one is fear of Hashem's punishment or retribution. Punishment, it is called Yiras Hashem, but the point is, it's not like coming from, God forbid, an angry place. It's coming from a desire to rectify us, purify us, etc. Okay, if we don't do tshuva. So you have fear of retribution, right? That's one feeling to that. Okay. And then you have fear of Yiras Hashem. So in terms of knowledge, this is what we need. Okay, to cultivate Yiras Hashem, right? Fear of punishment. We have to reflect. That means that, again, if we use our Yetzer Tov, if we stop and reflect, we usually draw forth very important things. We have to reflect. Yesh din v'yesh dayan. Okay, there's judgment and there's a judge. We're being judged. You obviously can understand why this is relevant to speak about right now. Now, how do you cultivate that knowledge? All right. So I want to give you a primary way to do it that I think is quite effective. And by the way, if and when we discuss anything that has to do with fear of consequences or exaltedness, again, right now, let's add kavanah for the mitzvah of Yiras Hashem. Okay, we're working on it. I want to have the physics of mitzvah goreres mitzvah. Let's do it now as well. Okay, so tack that onto your Torah learning mitzvah. Okay, there is a judge, there's a giant. Where do we find this? I think the easiest place to work on this is to study the 4th chapter of Mesilas Yesharim, which is about acquiring zehirus. All right, acquiring the trait of watchfulness. He does the work for us, because if you study the Tanakh, it is filled with even the greatest people experiencing consequences for their behavior. Hashem is opening things up and showing us what the reality is in the Torah. Now, the Ramchal, God bless his neshama, the Ramchal collects it for us. And also speaks about it and develops it. And who doesn't love and connect to Mesilas Yesharim? So that's recommendation number 1, to cultivate on the left side fear of retribution. Of course, I read a little of this before the shir, so I'll just give you an example of a point. You know, Avram Avinu, I understood something much better now, and that is this. It says that Hashem judges the highest level people, right, our Ahavas and the great people, by the hutasara, by like a thread spread. He's very particular with them. And Rabbi Green mentioned that, these are your best employees. You would think you cut them slack. Let me just bring that point out a little more, okay? Avram Avinu, do you think there is someone that Hashem loved more than him? Okay, maybe we have a couple competitors. Hashem declares, I love Abraham. I love him so much, right? Now, yet, when he said, how are the Jews going to get into Israel? When he made mistakes, and Yaakov Avinu and Yitzhak, when they made mistakes, you would think you would think that Hashem's love for them, his love for them would make him judge their case more leniently, and he didn't. Okay. And if I can just share something in our yeshiva, in the yeshiva I was in, Birkas Torah, we unfortunately we had older gentlemen part of the yeshiva, but they weren't so old, and a few of them passed away, and everybody who was in the yeshiva, they were really good people, and they were working hard and trying to do their Hashem's will as best they can. That's scary. Okay, so let's just take a moment right now to cultivate a little bit of Yiras Hashem. Okay, and just think about the fact. Think of, let's say, unfortunately through Corona, I'm sure many of you have known someone who's really good person, and they didn't. They left the world early. Okay, that's one way. Okay, just take a moment to think about and have that in mind, the mitzvah, and don't be afraid to be afraid of Hashem. This is so healthy for you and your neshama. Okay, just take a moment. And you can think about what the Torah is speaking about. Okay, let me give you another easier suggestion than reading Messias Yesharim, although I highly recommend that. The other suggestion is, this is you're doing it. This is the one of the KLM themes. You're doing it anyhow. So every day in Pesuki de Zimmer, you say the Shir Shal Yam, where the destruction of the Mitzrayim, right? The Hashem punishes people for bad behavior, is outlined. So while you're reciting that, you could have in mind the mitzvah of Yiras Hashem, and just try to feel it a little bit. Try to take seriously what it's describing. Okay, we got over the harder part, Yiras Onish. Let's go to the next side. At the top, if you want to cultivate Yiras Aromamus, so it's one of the Rambam says, reflecting on the astounding creation, right? Just a little reflection on the beauty and the stunning awesomeness. Just pick what speaks to you, and that will cultivate. You'll be knowing things of Hashem that'll cause you to be in awe of Hashem. And along those lines, as I mentioned, Pesuki de Simra is like describing and cataloging just the most marvelous things. Hashem's providence with the people he loves, Hashem's characteristics, the creation, right? So you can, again, you're doing it anyhow. All right. And so let's take a moment. Okay. We're just practicing. And this is, you have to understand, I mentioned this last time. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a short amount of time. However, that doesn't apply at all to KLM, to the mitzvah, to mitzvahs of the heart. It doesn't apply. We cannot overestimate the seconds. A few seconds ago, we thought about Yiras Onish. I promise you, I feel confident, I promise you, you will not be able to fathom what you did for yourself. Okay, let's do the same now. So take a moment and just think of something amazing about life, about the world, about something that happened, just think of something amazing, right? That's what I want to say. Oh, yeah, let's just do that, okay? Just so have in mind the mitzvah of Yiras Hashem in the getter of Yiras Aromamus, and let's take a second and practice and fulfill this mitzvah. Okay. When I went into that state, I thought of one of my favorite statements I heard that someone said, you bump into a person that you didn't expect to see at X place, right? It happens a lot. So what do people say? Small world. And so this statement is so much better and so much true. He says, it's not a small world. It's just very well run. You hear that? You can attain a romamus by reflecting on that aspect. Okay. All right. So that's we just went from thought to feelings. And now let's discuss the mitzvahs of serving Hashem b'yira. The first one I mentioned at the onset. Just realize every mitzvah that is motivated by love and yira and reverence for Hashem, that has wings to the Shemayim. Okay, so first thing, serving Hashem, Ivdu es Hashem b'yira. It's in Tehillim. Okay, and by the way, just you know, I mentioned to you in the past about Ahavas Hashem that it's 9x, it's 9 times mentioned in the Torah, and therefore you get the kedusha of 9 times 9. I couldn't believe this. I heard Rav Yossi Mizrahi say he found a sefer that says, you know how many times Yiras Hashem? 18 times. And I followed up with him. I emailed him, and he says it's by he mentioned the name of the Rav. He says he's very musmach. You can rely on him. So Yiras Hashem is times 18. So have that in mind. All right. So with that, we have the first aspect of serving it. So if you fear Hashem, you'll want to act in accordance with that fear. The feeling will lead to the following behaviors and actions. Okay. On the left side and the bottom, behavior, speech, and posture. We will see this is, I'm going to recommend this highly for Rosh Hashanah. Okay. So if you're in the presence of someone who's you're not going to be like blabbing and speaking loud. So if you lower your voice, if you speak more softly, right? You know, you're a little nervous in front of this person, you speak more softly. That's a mitzvah of Yiras Hashem, Deraisa times 18. If you lower your posture, you're not walking like this, you know, if you lower or tilt your head. I mean, the Torah is not requiring you to have bad posture. I'm not promoting that, but like tilting your head. I find that when I start Shemona Esrei in particular, if I like tilt my head just a little, it makes me feel more aware that I'm in the presence of Hashem. Okay, and that's a mitzvah of Yiras Hashem, right? So you tilt your head a little bit, and your posture, and you're walking as if you're in front of a fearsome or awesome being. Okay, so that's behavior and posture. All righty. Next, fear Hashem. The other expression of fear besides fear, pachad, of punishment, and being in awe of Hashem, in the middle, let's say, is reverence, right? Intense respect and reverence. So that's part of it. This is another fantastic place because it's the halacha to work on Yiras Hashem. When you say, whenever you make a bracha, or you say Kriya Shema, and with Hashem's name, Adonai. So there, if you have in mind Adon HaKol, that's sufficient, except maybe in Kriya Shema in the first bracha. But let's just focus. When you make a bracha and you say Adonai, and you have in mind Adon HaKol in your mind, that is reverence for Hashem times 18 Yiras Hashem Deraisa. Okay, that's reverence. Okay. Next is, since the pasuk says Es Hashem, right? There's an S, and Rabbi Akiva famously said S includes the rabbis. So having reverence for rabbis is also a mitzvah of Yiras Hashem. So one of the famous things the Midrash Tanhuma says, when you say Good Shabbos, Rabbi, you greet them, you speak to them. When you do that, that's an act of reverence, and you mekayim that deraisa. Certainly, I think a great way to express reverence is probably donation to KLM. I couldn't resist. Sorry. Let's go to so you hear reverence, and also doing mitzvahs with reverence, with care and reverence, and treating mitzvah objects that way. You see the middle category? It's beautiful. So especially on Rosh Hashanah, be very careful when you say Hashem's name, and also be very respectful to the rabbis, okay? Finally is exalting Hashem, all right? I mentioned here prayer and Rosh Hashanah. So what we're going to do right now, I've just given you an outline. It is 10 o'clock. We kept our time for the Yiras Hashem part. If you want to stay on for Rosh Hashanah, we're going to take a tour of Rosh Hashanah, in particular connected to what we're doing. And so let's do that. Let me move to our Rosh Hashanah slides. Okay, I'm going back on slides. Yes, thank you, Hashem. That's exactly what I wanted. All right, this will actually be, I think, a nice review of what we just discussed. If you look here, this is mitzvahs of Yiras Hashem connected to Rosh Hashanah. So we have Yiras HaOnish, fearing the consequences of the judgment. We're going to do an exercise on that. That's critical to do now. Okay. Then Yiras Aromamus is the tefillah, particularly the tefillah of Musaf. Okay. Then we said, if you look at the next one, it says keeping your head slightly down and walking that way, and also speaking in a lower tone of voice than normal. That's all great conduct, because don't forget, it's a Rosh Hashanah for Yiras Shamayim. So if you're working on this and you're having kavanah for this and you're deepening this, boy, oh boy, please God, you'll have a tremendous year, okay, with all the brachas, but you'll also have a tremendous year of Yiras Shamayim. What could be better, okay? So that's one example. And I just want to show you a little bit more and then we'll be done. But that's like a key link. This is a Yiras Aromamus. Oh, am I off screen? Am I off the screen share?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me 1 second then. Okay, let me go back. I'm just giving you a preview of what in the toolkit that we're going to put out. I just want to give you a quick preview of this. So we discussed this last year, CPR, which is that different times of Rosh Hashanah call for different mindsets and emotions. And so we have, for example, during the evening meal and the meals, you're supposed to exude confidence, right? During chakras, from when we get up in the morning, whatever, dawn to Hatzos, that most of the Jews are being judged. Either some say at the shofar blowing, or some say sometime in that period. So that's a time for pachad. That's a time to not be afraid of fearing Hashem, meaning those unpleasant, in quote, emotions. Okay. Then we move to Musaf, and in Musaf you have the shofar changes, if you will. I'm not saying this halacha, okay, and of course the main kavanah for shofar is shofar and listening to it. Okay. However, some say you're being judged when that shofar is blowing in the morning. So it certainly behooves us to feel to maharher b'tshuva, to have thoughts of tshuva and fear, etc. Now, but the Vilna Gaon's position is, I don't know, people who saw the Queen's funeral and all the pomp and grandeur there. So guess what? The Gra says you should be very filled with joy over the coronation of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, the King of kings, the king of Queen Elizabeth II, right? So I suggest that you certainly, there's a joy in the shofar blowing we see in the Musaf one. So use that for coronation. That's what I try to do in essence. I'm a little more afraid in the morning and a little more coronation in the afternoon. And also the glorious prayers, those Musaf prayers are gems of yours, Aromamus. Have it in mind. Okay. All right. I'm going to show you one more thing. One more thing, and then we'll just wrap up. This, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the simanim can be a sweet, tasty ritual, okay, left at that, or we can reap the moment. There's so much more to harvest. There's so many beautiful mitzvahs, as you see, just observing a minchag and doing it not by rote are 2 mitzvahs, okay? And then the brachas on the fruits. We have Amuna, Mea brachas, Yiras Hashem, if you're careful with the name, remembering Hashem's kindnesses. And then the Hiratzon is a tefillah. We're crying out in times of trouble because the whole world's being judged. It's kind of heavy times. You're supposed to mahar b'tshuva, etc. Okay, so I just wanted to remind you that the simanim is a place to really capitalize on. Okay, one final piece of work, and then we'll open it up to discussion. The following. The confidence. So, there is somebody who's a very effective teacher, and he's helped. I don't even want to allude to it because I don't want anyone to figure it out. He's very well respected, this and that, and he's doing very great things. But he gave over a word that bitachon, like confidence and trust in Hashem alone, will guarantee you a good judgment. And I said, I sent him a message. I said, I'm not sure that's the whole story. In other words, the way they explain it is the confidence in Hashem's mercy has to be preceded by the fear of Hashem, worrying about Rosh Hashanah and trying to do tshuva, but primarily worrying and fearing. In other words, as the Rambam says, we're fleeing from Hashem because we're so scared to Hashem. Okay. Now, but so you have to flee first. You have to generate trepidation over what's going to happen on Monday night. Okay, Monday, Yom Sheni. All right. So let's. Again, I want to do the mitzvah now because mitzvah goresh mitzvah. And I also, who knows what's going to happen for me and you. Please God, we should take time and prepare. As Rabbeinu Yonah says, if you had, and I remember last year, Shaul mentioned, if you had a serious court case, you would be spending time on it. You would be carving out time. So we're supposed to fear and prepare. Okay, let's do it right now. Okay, what I want to do right now is let's take a moment. Let's have in mind the mitzvah of Yiras Hashem, the mitzvah of worrying about the consequences of Hashem's judgment, which Rabbeinu Yonah says is one of the 20 principles that purify your soul. Okay, so have those mitzvahs in mind. And I want you to take a minute, whatever, we'll figure out how much. I want you to think about all the calamity and difficulty that happened this year. You, your friends, your family, your community, the world. Okay, I think there's the loss of great people. Oh, unbelievable. We lost Rav Chaim and Rav Shalom Cohen in this unbelievable. Okay, anyhow, let's take some time to worry about this coming year based on last year. Okay, and not knowing what's going to happen. All right. Have in mind the mitzvah of Yiras Hashem. Okay. That's please God, this should be an offering to Hashem. It should be our communal offering. And I want to just wish everybody Kasiva v'chasima tova, right? Just a sweet year, a beautiful year with sweet things that last and are permanent. And we should get ever so close to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and ever so close to the people that he puts in our lives, and we should treat them the way the Torah tells us to treat them. Okay, Mamish, everybody should have a beautiful year.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi. Shkach. I'm going to jump in with a question before Shoal does.
I don't know how you did it.
Yeah, I had to get in quickly.
That's amazing. He must be closing a deal or something.
Yeah. No, actually, I apologized to him. He was waiting in the waiting room when I didn't see him. So anyway, he's going to catch some of the recording. But I was going to ask that there's obviously a big difference between the work that we're doing now and the day itself in terms of our kavanah. And I'm sure this is something you're going to distribute in the tools that are coming out. But I always struggle to frame in my mind like the day itself, that we're not really so much into personal requests. It's a day of Malchus and that. So not to put you on the spot, but maybe if you could just, if I was going to grab onto one or two things on the day, because there's so much going on in the davening and that, what would you say would be good to grab onto that would frame our kavanas correctly for the day?
Let me first discuss what you said about requests. Okay, I understand most can hold by the following idea, parents. It's very important. It's based on Rev Salanter, and that I see most people say this. Okay, let's first discuss request. Says Rev Salanter, that. You're right. It's a famous Zohar. And in theory, we shouldn't be focused on ourselves. We should be focused on the king, right? How many people were focusing on themselves when they were dealing with Queen Elizabeth? Okay. So the thing is, says Rev Salanter, they were capable of being filled with awe and fearing, trembling, and just focusing on that. If we ignore the fact that Rosh Hashanah is determining our lives and our friends and families' life, if we kind of just, it's okay, I'll just focus on the thing, that's a lack of Yiras Hashem, says Rav Salanter. Okay, so one thing I would suggest is have a part of the day when at some point, or even in the Elokai Netzor, but have in mind the mitzvah. You hear this? Of Yiras Hashem, that you're begging Hashem. The more you beg beg Hashem for the welfare of everybody, that you're taking the din seriously. Yeah. So that's what they prescribe for us, and I think it's fantastic. Okay, now I think there's a beautiful, in terms of how to focus on the day. First of all, follow the map of CPR carefully. Okay, focus in those different times. There's a time for confidence, there's a time for pachad, and there's a time for romamus. Okay, so I would say direct yourself that way. That's one overall thing. Yeah. The other thing to tell you is something just amazing from the Ramchal. Kedushas Hayom Tein Pachtacha, right? That famous section, Tein Pachtacha. So when you first say it, it's easy to just think, wow, what a glorious thing. We're asking the entire world to cleave to Hashem in a Guda Echas. It's an amazing prayer. But you say it, I think, 9 times. You say it so many times. Yeah. So I would find that my Tein Pachtacha number 1, my number 7 is not the same as my number 1. So then I found what the Ramchal says. The Ramchal says that prayer, Kedushas Hayom Tein Pachtacha, every time you recite it, and of course, the more kavanah, the more focus and engagement, you're bringing Hashem's Malchus more into the world every single time. So we only have 9 times. Do you hear this? To bring down the Malchus Shemayim. Okay. All right. I think if I say any more, it'll definitely be overload.
Okay,
right. Very good. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
I
Joel?
think Shaul, he's having a problem connecting
audio problem.
to the audio. Yeah. I'll
Okay.
tell him to email his question to you.
Right. If any other questions, otherwise we'll get to work. All right. So I just, again, what Parrot said, let us know, contact Parrots or Shifra Levine, who's working with us at KLM. She's an administrator on the WhatsApp, or myself, if you would like the Rosh Hashanah package. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
It's